Good afternoon. We're going to go ahead and start now so we can get the most out of it for the hour for you guys. Welcome to this Adobe webinar, Breaking Down Barriers in Education. My name's Owen Williams and I'm the Business Development Manager here at Pew. Just to warn you, we are experiencing a bit of thunder and lightning here in West Wales, so hopefully it doesn't affect us. So joining me today is Tom, the Education Business Architect at Adobe. So we have a fantastic relationship with Adobe and have done for many years. And we're one of the 4 Education Elite Platinum resellers in the UK. So on today's webinar, Tom is going to speak about how to create a successful blending learning environment with Adobe and speaking around the named user license. Then I'm going to discuss a few products that we see that'll help you create a complete solution when it comes to blended learning. If you have any questions about anything Tom's speaking about, please send them in and we'll ask him either as we're going or we'll have a Q&A at the end just to make sure we get all your questions in. If you have any questions about what I've spoken about, please send them in and Simon and LD from our creative team will get back to you after the webinar. Right, I'm going to bring Tom in now. Good afternoon, Tom.
Good afternoon, Owen. Good afternoon, everyone.
Nice to have you here again.
Thank you. Yeah, haven't quite got the thunder and lightning here on the south coast of England, but might be coming later on. So yeah, it's just very hot.
Not to rub it in. Yeah.
There we go. Okay, right. So thank you everyone for joining. As Owen said, I'm a business education architect at Adobe. Before I worked here, I worked as an education consultant writing exam questions for Certiport for Microsoft Office and Adobe. And prior to that, I was a secondary school teacher and senior leader, teaching IT, but I trained as a PE teacher before that. So that's a bit of my background. I've worked all the way through and also managed the network managers and used to kind of deploy some tools myself, which was quite interesting. So just a quick kind of recap of where we are at the moment. Digital transformation and the new academic year. So the pandemic and schools and universities have been really accelerating their use of digital technologies. There's been the panic of how do we make sure that we can continue learning when students aren't in school, when teachers can't come into school? How can we manage that? What can we put onto platforms? So there's been a big drive for Microsoft Office with Teams and Google for Education with Google Classroom. And then we can get the platforms out there and then how can they create content and how can we kind of break down some of those barriers as well? And really, we've been seeing about 2 to 3 years of transformation. So people have talked about moving things into more kind of cloud, more accessible, access 24/7, using the likes of Teams and Google Classroom. Some schools had driven there and were using it. Some had pockets of teachers that were driving it in their subjects. But this has been a really big kind of shift from where people wanted to be maybe thinking about to actually a reality in about 3 months. And the IT teams have worked their socks off to actually deploy this and train their staff up to be able to use these platforms. And what we're also experiencing now is the IT leaders, the digital leaders, the planners, the curriculum teams are thinking, right, as we come back in September and we keep on hearing news coming out from the different education ministers for, especially for England and Wales, talking about schools reopening. The latest from the English schools minister was schools are going to reopen pretty much come what may in September, and they'll be trying to be the last to be locked down. But we've got to be aware there could be local lockdowns that could impact the students' ability to learn. And what happens if they're self-isolating as well? So the school might be open, but they need to stay at home for 10 days and they can't actually come in. So how can we support you with working with that and that digital transformation and that planning stage? That's what we're going to cover today. And when I've been speaking to schools as well, some of them don't realize that when using the Adobe tools, we now link to Office 365 and Azure AD. So we actually have a synchronization tool that can synchronize your users from your Office 365 directly into the Adobe Admin Console. And you can then replicate the groups as well from both tenancies. So from your Office 365 tenancy, you can see those groups appearing in the Adobe Admin Console, and you can assign licenses to those users as well. So it makes it much easier that if they're in a group, they can all have a Spark license. And if you've got certain Creative Cloud named user licenses for your users, you can have a group and assign that group the full named user license. So effectively, you can manage your users in Office 365 by making them members of certain groups, and then that will synchronize to the Adobe Admin Console live, and it will also manage your federated logins, so you don't have to worry about claiming domains and SAML claims. It builds that SAML claim between Office 365 and Adobe, and the end users just need to type their email address in, and it will bounce them to Office 365 login to validate that, which can be a really big speed up of allowing people to access the tools outside of school, because quite often we've got schools with device licenses or shared device licenses, and I'll talk about those a little bit more in the next few slides. We do also support G Suite for Education as well. So you can synchronize the users between G Suite and the Adobe Admin Console. The difference with this one at the moment is currently the group memberships aren't exposed, aren't shared from the G Suite API. So we can get all the users to come into the Admin Console, but they don't go into a group as default. So there's a kind of a second stage of assigning those users to groups, which can be done quite easily through a CSV file. But again, that will build a SAML claim, so the users can sign in just with their G Suite email address, and that can bounce them into, log them in and give them access to which Adobe tools you've assigned by the group membership. So that's a really big kind of time saver. And one of the challenges of moving to these cloud systems is that users need to sign in to validate. And how can we get them to sign in? And more often than not, schools have either got Office 365 or G Suite for their kind of email platform, and that is the core to signing in. The other difference with this version, and we're talking about Adobe Federated IDs, is the users don't need to set a password or accept an email to be able to log in. By having a federated login, just the fact that it's got that claim built between the two, there's no separate password that comes in because it's all managed through that login to either G Suite or Office 365. If you've got a different setup and you're using ADFS, and you've got Active Directory users, then we do have another tool called the Adobe User Sync tool, which is effectively a Python script which takes your Active Directory users and pushes them from AD into the Adobe Admin Console, and you can set up a SAML claim. It just takes a bit longer to set up, and there's a few more steps involved, but the Azure connector I've set up in about 3 minutes. It's really quite quick, and the G Suite one takes a little bit longer, about 6 or 7 minutes, but it's not a massive task, which has always been one of the challenges about moving over to the kind of named user environment, which is one of our key drivers for using our tools remotely. So the named user licensing, the licenses we have, so we have Creative Cloud All Apps, and you can buy that per user, both at higher ed and at primary and secondary school. What that does is it means that the license is assigned to that particular user. So you can install the software on unlimited devices in school, and then the users can go home and on their own device, go to adobe.com, put their email address in. If you've set up Office 365 or G Suite, it will bounce them into that platform, send them back to the Adobe website, and show them they can download Creative Cloud and install it on their machine and choose which apps they want to install. So you don't have to worry about validating their computers or giving them a package. They can manage that all themselves, and that gives them that full access. The other thing is that you can also bulk up licenses. So if you're looking at the K-12 license that we have for primary and secondary schools, they come with 2 GB of storage. If you assign that user Adobe Spark product profile as well, they increase their storage because there's 2 GB of storage available with Adobe Spark. So they get in total 4 GB of Creative Cloud storage. And again, the Creative Cloud storage piece and Creative Cloud libraries, I'll talk a little bit more later on in the presentation about how these link together. The other thing to bear in mind is if you've got the named user licensing, so the Creative Cloud All Apps, you are able to install these on a virtualized environment. So if you've got students at home that have got Chromebooks or devices that can't support the full Creative Cloud, and you've got the named user licensing and you've got a virtualized environment, you can install this on virtual desktop and allow your users to access that, which is another advantage of the named user licensing. And there's been a big drive of accessibility and getting devices out to learners. And one of the big things we've seen is there's been quite a lot of Chromebooks that have been going out because of the price point. So again, they can have access through that method. And just to kind of cover, a lot of schools and universities have been used to what we call the shared device license, which did require login, but these licenses were licensed on a device basis. So each device in school, in the university, would take a license and you could install it. Unlimited users could use that device. There was no restriction on it. We recommended to give the users Adobe Spark to allow some of the collaboration features, but you could have 100 users using that computer, but you were limited to that. The other key thing in terms of the shared device licensing in the license terms is it doesn't enable you to install this on a virtualized environment or allow remote access into that device. So it needs to be for use in a lab, physically in a lab. But the shared device license does require a user to sign in, which gives some of the advanced features. And then just to kind of round the story off of the 3 different licensing models, this is at K-12 now that we've got currently. We've got named user licensing, all apps. We've got shared device licensing, and then we've got what the legacy device licenses. And the legacy licenses, they didn't enable, they didn't require users to sign in. So they were installed on a machine. Again, it was licensed per device. But the thing to think about this is, you like these the analogy of these different, the candle and the light bulb and the LED light bulb, is that they all give out light, but the others are, the newer ones are more efficient and better at doing this and last longer. So CC 2018 is what you're limited to if you're on the current device license. That's not going to change. That's not going to be upgraded. It doesn't include the efficiencies, and when I talk about that, that's about the cloud service and the collaboration that we've got. And if you're buying Apple suites or upgrading your Apple OS, the CC 2018 doesn't work on Catalina on the latest version. So if you're buying new Macs, you can't downgrade the OS on those Macs as well. And sometimes that can not be thought through, that, oh, we've got device licenses, it'll work on everything. So just to be aware, the device license, the legacy device license, doesn't support that, and also doesn't support students working from outside of school. So the reason we changed is that we really want to enable collaboration, and by identifying users, it enables that collaboration in a couple of ways. One is that you can invite other users to work on documents at the same time. So we've got things like Adobe XD, which is our prototyping app. You can invite others and work synchronously. So at the same time, you can be editing an XD app prototype with other users and multiple users. A bit like Google Docs and Office 365 now, where you can have multiple people editing at the same time. So there's that collaboration feature. And the other thing is that we want people to create anywhere on their devices. So by having a named user means that we can link a user's files and settings and what we call CC libraries to that user account. And so if you log in on your phone, you can start doing some work. If you then pick up an iPad, you can carry on that work on your iPad. You can then go straight to your desktop and those files are there instantly, or your laptop. So it gives that ability to collaborate, but also work across multiple devices. I will, if there's any questions, please put them in the Q&A as we go. I'm more than happy. Owen's keeping an eye out to watch and give me some feedback as well if there's any questions there. So what we'll go into now really is thinking about some of the mobile apps and services. And this is one of the big advantages of the named user licensing. So the shared device limits what you can actually access on a mobile device on your own device. And we've got a few here, and this is a snapshot because there's quite a few apps here. One of the big ones is Premiere Rush. And the reason I'll talk about this in quite a bit of detail is that from the blended learning approach, there's a couple of things that we're noticing. One is a big desire for teachers, lecturers to create video content to replace their face-to-face lessons. So rather than just putting up worksheets and presentations, could they record a video? Can they edit that video together easily to bring in part of the workings of something or a demonstration? And can they top and tail it with some nice simple graphics? Premiere Rush really fits into this piece because it also means that you can record on your device. So this works on Android devices, iPhones, iPads, Macs, and PCs. And the advantage of using it on your phone, your Android phone or your iPhone or your iPad, is that you can record directly on the device and then start editing it. And the workspace is really simple to just edit it with touch. You can trim the clips down, you can take sound off, you can add pictures in, so you can have up to 3 levels of either video layers or image layers on top. You can add graphics in there, so animated text coming in, banners along the bottom, title cards, things like that, really simply on your device. But if you want to then open it, so you've done your recording in your rough edit on your phone, because that's where you've just recorded your presentation or your lesson, then you open up your laptop or desktop, your Creative Cloud Rush project will be available in Rush on your laptop, and it synchronizes the files directly to the cloud. So you've got that ability to work from there, and then you can export that out as an MP4 file and put that onto Google Drive to upload to Google Classroom or Stream for Office 365, or you might be pushing it to other video platforms like YouTube. But it makes it really easy to export that file. On the screenshot there, all you do is go onto the share option, and it gives you some very simple export formats as well. The other thing you can do here is that if you want to then take this into Premiere Pro and use the more advanced video features of Premiere Pro, you can open up Premiere Pro now, and directly in there you can import or open your Rush projects. You don't need to import, you just click on Open Rush Projects, and you can take that whole Rush editing that you've already done on your device, on your phone, on your laptop, your desktop, and have it available in full Premiere Pro to add those extra features to it. One other little tip that I've done before is you can also create graphics that are for your school or university, so like title cards in Premiere Pro, and save them out as a MoGraph format, which are then easily available in Premiere Rush. So you can allow the teachers to have a title card for consistency in terms of the lesson, the topic, and rather than just it being all very different, all these teachers are using different things to put their titles on there. So Premiere Rush is fantastic for recording, editing. So you record it with the camera app and you can just import it directly into Rush, editing down, recording voiceovers, adding pictures, adding other things to it. So really useful for that remote learning. That was from a teacher point of view. And then from a student, one of the challenges is creating video is really powerful in terms of bringing in animations, video, sound, other things, other video clips. They can create this and they don't need to spend ages being taught how to use it, because as you can see from the interface there, it's really simple. One of the other things with these newer tools is we've built into them these, they're called WalkMes, effectively in-app tutorials that take you through step by step through the different sections of how to use the tool. So you don't have to spend ages training the learners how to use it. They can just, if they've got access, they can follow that tutorial and they can have confidence to go through that straight away. Just going to mute Chris. Chris, can you just mute yourself for a second, please?
Sorry, Tom. I was just waiting for you to finish the slides because we've got 2 questions here.
Oh, okay, no worries. Okay, do the question.
Just one quick question then. Is it possible to adopt a hybrid model, shared device license, shared device and named user together?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
so,
and then
we can go into detail of that as well if they need to afterwards or on an email. But yeah,
okay.
You can have both.
Okay, and then is the existing shared device license deemed as a legacy model, and will this be supported on the latest Mac OS?
So the existing shared device license supports CC20, and we'll go over to CC21 when we produce the newest update. So shared device licensing support the latest version of Creative Cloud. So you have that coverage there.
Okay, brilliant.
Okay.
Thanks, Jesse, for the questions. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. And just in terms of your VIP, so if you've got customers that are on the call that have got an existing contract that the anniversary date may be in January, and you want to take on the named user licenses on top of what you've already got, if you place an order now, they are pro-rated for the monthly amount till the anniversary date. So you don't have to, your current contracts are co-termed, so they all have the end date. So just something to bear in mind when budgeting and looking at adding things on to your existing plans. Okay, another tool, and this one is available currently for Surface devices and iPad, is Adobe Fresco, which is our new painting and drawing app, which is a really cool app for just that whole artistry piece. So if you've got an art and design department, an art class, and giving them access to canvases and oil paints is just not feasible in a remote learning environment. Adobe Fresco works with oil paints and it actually blends them in. So it uses the physics of how the colors will merge and how the oils will merge. The same thing happens for watercolors as well. So you can create these really, really nice looking paintings using this tool. It's pressure sensitive, so it works with the 9.7-inch iPad. So you don't need an iPad Pro to use this. It works with the Apple Pencil 1 or any kind of input device as well, and it can save it out as a Photoshop file. The other nice thing about this is that when you go to export, you can actually export a time lapse of your creation, so you can show how it's been built up. So really useful for a teacher to draw and show how they paint, and then export the time lapse to show how they've built up that painting and where they've deleted things and changed things because they want to change it. And sometimes one of the challenges is when students see something, learners, they think that if a teacher's produced it, it was perfect straight away, and actually showing that whole working process of how they've made mistakes is really useful. One of the key things with Fresco, and Fresco came out first of our kind of new wave of apps, is it was designed specifically around the touch interface, but it uses something called cloud documents, and these cloud documents enable you to save it on here, and then it become immediately available in Photoshop on a desktop device as well, because it synchronizes. It doesn't use the Creative Cloud files, which is a bit like OneDrive, where it looks at a folder on your device and shares those files and kind of synchronizes them. Cloud Docs is alive, it's saving it directly to the cloud, and if you open up the other tool, it pulls it directly from the cloud without having to synchronize the files. Then moving on to Photoshop has been released on the iPad as well. Again, it works on the 9.7-inch version of the iPad, so they don't need the kind of an iPad Pro to use this. This makes you, so you can see there the Cloud Documents option, which has the ability to kind of just save it directly to the Cloud Documents. There are tutorial files, again, built in. So right from the beginning, you can start with a tutorial. Also, we have the Learn option. So on that screenshot there, underneath Home, you have Learn. And this is not just something for the iPad apps. This is all of the Creative Cloud document tools. So Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects, they all have a Learn option on them. And that Learn option takes you to a landing page in the app, which then can launch tutorials with the files that you need for those tutorials already there. So you can work through this. And this is a really big thing for us in terms of what we're trying to do is break down the barriers to people actually using the tools without saying, I can't use them without going on a course, or where's a good tutorial and I have to go and search for it. It's actually there in the tool. So again, when we're talking about blended learning, and there's a term called flipping the learning, you flip the learning. A teacher could say, right, you've got access to this at home on your device. Can you then go through the Learn panel and learn how to do masking in Photoshop? Can you do some of the basic things? The other features that we've also got is with the newer versions of the software, there's a lot faster workflows. So in CC 2020, in Photoshop, you can just select an area and content aware fill it and remove something from a picture. You can now do that in video. So you can remove an object from video. And the best way of explaining that is Game of Thrones, where they left the coffee cup in scene. You could just draw around that coffee cup and say remove it, and it would do it automatically and remove it and look at how the background is and what should be there and replace it for you, which is really powerful. So there's those features. And the latest version of Photoshop, you can select and mask a person. So if you want to cut out the background really nicely and they've got kind of wavy hair, you can select and mask, and it uses our artificial intelligence to work that through. A couple of other tools on the iPad. So Adobe Illustrator is coming to the iPad. I just got access to the beta version on Friday, which is a really cool tool as well. But you've got all the other apps that they could use on their own device. So remembering that Acrobat comes with Creative Cloud. So they have full Acrobat Pro, they can edit PDFs, they can compress them, they can redact information, they can convert them into forms. One of the things we speak to teachers about often what do you want to do with PDFs? I just want to be able to edit a PDF really quickly. So they can do that. The event will continue in a moment. Is my screen still live, Owen? Or Chris?
It says here, failed to execute send live command. One or more sources are no longer available. I'm trying to send it live to you now, if you know me. But sorry about this, guys. It keeps saying error, failed to execute send live command.
Let me stop sharing my screen and see if I can do it again.
Not sure what happened there.
There we go. It looks like it's going live again. Sorry, I had a big flash of things.
Yeah,
We've got
same.
there.
Okay, we got it. Cheers.
So yeah, so we've got Illustrator. There's another tool as well called Adobe Capture, which enables you to pick out, so convert a line drawing into that you've drawn on page into a vector just using your phone. You can also pick out what fonts things are. Another advantage with the full named user access is Adobe Fonts. So you can use all of the Adobe fonts and synchronize them to your desktop or your mobile device as well. So you can actually have access to premium fonts directly within Photoshop without having to license those fonts as well. So there's lots of different options going there. And what I'll try and do in this slide, and it looks a bit busy, but I'll explain it. So as it comes through, come on, PowerPoint. Is that we've got the advantage of named user and some of the features that we've got in there. So with standard Creative Clouds, they also have individual Adobe Sign built into the Creative Cloud All apps, so they can request signatures. That's the individual version, not the kind of the work group version. You've got Adobe Fonts, so you can synchronize fonts to your desktop or your mobile device. And if you download a template that uses Adobe Fonts, it will automatically synchronize those. Adobe Spark, you can also use Adobe Fonts in as well. So Spark is our kind of simple video and graphic editing tool that works in a browser. And we recommend that if you assign Creative Cloud All apps or you're using shared device licenses, you give all your users Spark. So at least they've all got a simple graphic editor that they can access in a Chrome browser on any device. If you're using InDesign, you've got digital publications that convert your InDesign document and with interactivity into onto the InDesign publishing pages, which is actually an HTML5 rendered version of your InDesign publication. Your app preferences stay with you. So if you stay on a computer on one machine and you want to go to another, if you've got different settings for how you have it laid out, it will remember those for you. We've already spoken about collaboration, allowing you to work together. We have things called CC libraries that's also on there as well. Is if I've got some graphics or some elements that I want to have available to other people, I can share a CC library and I can put my school logo or my project brand into there. It's automatically available in the other Adobe Creative Cloud apps. It's also, there's a plugin that you can install for PowerPoint or Microsoft Word and have those graphic elements available instantly in these other programs without having to export them and re-import them. We've got CC files, so you can share your files up. So it's like your backup as well of your Creative Cloud files, and you can share CC folders with other users to work on those files and have access to them. When you save to CC files, there's file versioning going on as well. So if you need to restore something back, you've made a change and you want to recover it in the CC files, you can see all the previous versions and recover those. We've got review for comments. So there's a couple of pieces here. If you're working on InDesign, you can immediately share an InDesign file out to get comments. The end user will get an invitation on email to link. They'll view it in a web browser and they'll see your document that you're creating. They can add comments like Acrobat comments, and those comments come directly back to you in InDesign. So you don't have to re-import or anything. Those comments are there live as you're working and you can respond to those, which absolutely speeds up that workflow of using InDesign. You can also share document cloud. So you've got Doc Cloud there, which is Adobe Document Cloud. You can share a PDF to get comments on that PDF. And again, it uses Document Cloud. So it gives them a web link. They don't even need to have Acrobat installed on their machine. They can view that file. They can give feedback on it directly within the browser. And then we've got cloud documents that I mentioned before, which work on Fresco and Photoshop, coming to Illustrator, which allows you to work on those as well. Okay. A couple of things when you're building packages from a kind of a deployment piece. When you've got a named user package, you get two options. You can install a self-service package or a managed package. A self-service package might be when you've got teachers with laptops with small SSDs, or you've got administration staff in the office that probably only want maybe one or two apps. This installs the Creative Cloud desktop app, so you can roll out a small package, and then when the user signs in with their email address, it will tell them which apps are available as part of their license. So CC all apps, it will give them access to all, and then it will give them a button that says either to open, or if that application is not installed on their device, it will give them an option to install it. It uses the elevated privileges of the package when the package was installed to allow that user to install software on demand. So you're not kind of rolling out large 30 gigabyte packages for Creative Cloud when the users have got small SSDs and they only want one or two apps. And the other way is the managed package, which is more where you've got a lab and you want to, or classroom, and you want to install specific applications on those machines. You can build that package and you can say which applications you want, which then locks users from updating them or changing them. So there's a couple of deployment methods. All the packages now with the named user licensing and the shared device licensing are all built in the Adobe Creative Cloud admin console. So you don't need to download the Creative Cloud packager anymore. You do it all within the cloud. Okay, so a couple of kind of comments to wrap up from my end really here is that when we, and if you've got any questions, we've got time at the end, but also I'll stop just after this bit of the presentation to respond to any of those. Think about using it for creating learning content. So you've got video for learning. You can start on mobile. You can record on mobile. You don't need to spend ages training a teacher. If you showed some teachers Premiere Pro, they would get scared and they would run away, say, I'm never going to learn to use that. When I've shown teachers and students Premiere Rush, they're like, yeah, this is really straightforward. I can do this. So that's one of our barriers to entry, is that that's been lowered by using some of these tools. If they want to create a PDF from a scan on their phone, they can download Adobe Scan, which will save their PDF, their image as a PDF, and they can edit that and they can take things out, or they can put it through OCR within Acrobat Pro, and that will convert the photograph into text recognizable, which is really handy for if you want it to have a screen reader or if you want to search for content. You can create template files, so you could create a file or start of a file in Photoshop and then share it through CC files. So the students can either download a copy of it or they can have access to the file. So you choose, you want them to be able to copy it or do you want them to work in the file? And then and that would be done through Creative Cloud Files. The named user access, just to summarize the users, if you've got the full named user access, they can just go to adobe.com and they can log in there by putting their email address in on the sign in, and that will allow them to sign in with, if you've connected the federated method through Office 365 and G Suite tools. Those connector tools are free. They're built into the admin console. So the simple way is you go to your admin console, click on Setup, create a directory, and then choose whether it's Azure AD, which is what we name for the Office 365. It needs just a level 1 Azure AD, so the one that comes free for education is absolutely fine. G Suite or using another SAML-based tool. The named user access, the software can be installed in a virtualized environment. So if you're virtualizing your desktops or you're allowing remote access, those named user licenses can be accessed that way. And the package can be installed on unlimited machines. So you can install that package all the way through. You don't have to worry about how many times it's deployed because the license is with the user. And that kind of summarizes where I am. Owen, any questions, or Chris? So Chris is saying the internet is gone at the moment. Okay. I feel a bit lonely here at the moment, gents. So The next slide, which was Owen's slide, was just remembering some of the updates for Teams. I'll also put an Adobe plugin here that we've also made Spark share to Teams, so you can share it as an assignment or respond to an assignment with an Adobe Spark creation is being released. You've got the live gallery, which makes the students pop out into that view at the top right. You've got breakout rooms, so you can create breakout rooms for people to work in. You've got raise the hand option now for Microsoft Teams. And finally, they've produced as well attendance reports, so it's easier to check who's actually joined. And there are some other features now released on Microsoft Teams about controlling the lobby and things like that, and who can start the meetings and things. So lots of updates with Microsoft Teams. I probably won't be able to do this one as much justice, but if you're looking at back in the classroom and interactivity with the different tools, you've got the ViewSonic tools, the smart boards and the Promethean boards as well, and the collaboration there with Smart Learning Suite for Microsoft Teams and Screen Beam, bringing the content into the classroom. Then hardware for blended learning in terms of the tools that are available. So on the screen, you have the tools there with the headsets, the video recording tools as well. So you might have a time where you've got some students in class and some at home. How can they engage and interact, and using the right tools, speak to the team of what they can do, of what your challenges are, and ask them to come up with some solutions as well. No one from Pew managing to come back in. And then finally, some of the devices for creativity. So if you want to speak about the Microsoft Surface devices, Lenovo or HP devices, autopiloting. So actually that simple deployment of your devices onto your domain, the portability about how light they are, how long the batteries last, the quality involved in them, and then the accessibilities, the accessories that come with those devices as well. So apologies for not knowing too much about those previous slides, but I work for Adobe, but I thought I'd try and keep going because people have dropped off with technical problems. You've got the contacts there with Simon and Eldie. So if you've got any questions for Pew specifically around the licensing, the pricing, the products, please get in contact with those guys. If you've got any issues, queries, questions that you might have specifically around Adobe and deployment, then you can speak to Pew, but you also have my email address there as well. So I think I will leave that on the slide. The Q&A pod. So we had the hybrid model. Yeah, as I say, you can have shared device and named user. The shared device licenses, the named users can log into those, and you could deploy shared device in, say, an IT lab, and then the named user licenses in your art and design classroom. As long as the users using the named user license were using that classroom, that would be fine. And then ultimately anyone could use the IT rooms. So a mix and match model is a really good idea, allowing that kind of ramp up to named user access. And those are there's 3 questions in new, so I will, yeah, same question there. So apologies for the technical issue of the guys from Pew not being on. Mark or Chris or Owen, anyone else there? If there's no more questions, then as I say, you've got my contact details, you've got the Pew contact details. Finished about 5 minutes earlier than thought, but that was because I was talking for some of those things. So thank you for joining. Have a good afternoon, and look forward to seeing any contact that you have. Take care.